Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. This is exciting to have a time and place to talk about investor relations. So we're going to wait until everybody comes in. This is the SBDC workshop on investor readiness for founders out there. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about outreach and communication. So I have given similar types of topics about investor relations, and I tried very, very hard to not repeat myself, to really create more kind of awareness and seeing like, how do we go from knowing an investor on LinkedIn or finding that investor at an event and making sure that we follow up, we do the outreach. And then we're going to go into at the very end some examples of newsletters and entrepreneur communication. So I have repeated before about how to do a newsletter, but I just want to give you those examples again, just to make sure, but then allow some augmentation of the one before. So anyways, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to share my screen. Here it is. Give me 1 second. I just have to just change one little thing. Done. Okay. This. Perfect. So this, I just want to make sure I'm going to go into display mode. So this is investor readiness outreach, investor outreach and communications workshop. I've done a lot of things, so I just put all the things that I've done so that you know that I'm an advisor at the Brink SBDC, really supporting entrepreneurs, startups, tech founders, any kind of founder go from 0 to 1 and sometimes 1 to 2, right? Not really necessarily Series A, but really what does it mean to go from an idea to getting funded, to get some grants, to get bank loans and actually raise a company. And I've been a VC and angel investor for many, many years, about 15 years. So I've seen it. I've seen it go bad. I've seen it go good. I have done warm introductions. I've seen cold introductions. I've seen it all being sent to me. And then also seeing what entrepreneurs send out there. So I'm coming from that piece of like, making sure that we're doing really great work and rolling up my sleeves with investors and entrepreneurs. So I wanted to start off with just more of a strategic view of what is capital, because that goes into communications. The communications and outreach with investors always starts with trust, reciprocity, making sure that you have a relationship with that investor, even before you even know that person, kind of getting into this flow of abundance. So looking at the 3 C's is network capital, expertise capital, and financial capital that you're going to go through, right? So that financial capital is obviously what you're going to try to get, right, from that investor. So wire the checks, get ongoing financial support. But the network capital and experiential capital is equally as important when you bring in that investor. And that's kind of how you can hone in your outreach and your communications to actually get to that financial capital. So network capital is the connections of purpose. Who are they connected to? Warm introductions, making sure that they are connected to the right investors, the right customers, you are connecting them in the right ways. And then expertise capital is more of that investor that comes in as an advisor. There's technical expertise, but that technical expertise, what they're bringing from their lived experience or their career experience, allows you to do the right outreach to them. So I wanted to kind of start out like this to make sure that we know that we are really going after these 3 C's to connect very purposely with those investors so that you can have better outreach and better communications. Okay, so we're going to start off with outreach first. I also wanted to do a caveat on the types of angel investor roles. So the outreach that you have, you can really say, oh, this investor that I have on my list, or I've met an investor at an event, do they fit in these buckets of the types of angel investors? And I would say this is typical buckets of early stage investors in general, meaning micro VCs, VCs that come into the pre-seed round, or other advisors that you might bring in for equity so that they can work with you to build that business. So of course, the source of capital is number 1. that mentoring and advising, then they're a networker, they're a recruiter. They might be some PR and marketing pieces of that angel investor, that investor coming in, technical expertise, advisory board, and board member. And you'll see that the effort goes from, like small effort on their part to high effort. So when you're looking at this thing, if you meet somebody at an event and they're kind of standoffish and they are investors, they're asking you some critical questions about performance or what your traction is. They might be just that, low effort source of capital. They're going to write you a check if they want to do that. If somebody is really thinking about, wow, I know what you're building. I have been in this field. They're asking you critical questions about your company and they're really kind of getting into the groove with you. You've probably felt that maybe sometimes with investors that you meet at events. That's how you can curate and shepherd that outreach and communication with that investor. So that is more of like that advisory board member or that board member in general that serves responsibly for making critical company decisions, and their effort is a lot higher. So you want to have even better relationships with them, better relations, so that you can have better conversations and grow this company together. So that's giving you a little bit of a place to place them as you go out and outreach to them and communicate with them in a very authentic way. So, I'm not going to go after the preparedness of outreach and communication of, you need to have your pitch deck done, right? You have to have your value proposition, your story arc, all of that. Number two is like, obviously you have your LinkedIn up and ready, because if you are doing outreach, the first thing those investors are going to go to is straight onto LinkedIn. Number three is like understanding your persona, investor persona, and your list. We're going to go through that a little bit, but that's something that everybody should have. You should have an executive summary, a one pager, make it easy for you to share it with them. And then advisory board. If you do have an advisory board, that brings in some expertise that you're not just doing it by yourself. And of course, your deal room, right? Making sure that you're prepared in that deal room so that you can easily, when you're doing that outreach, send to them. If they're like saying to you, hey, I love what you're doing. Can you send me your deal room? You're like, I need to build it. Oh my gosh. No, you should have it before. If you're talking to an investor and they're asking you, okay, look, can you send me your pitch deck so that I can review it? You're like, oh my gosh, I don't have it ready. You should have it ready, right? So all of these things in the executive summary, some people ask you, some of them don't ask you, but it's nice to have if you're at an event and you have a booth. So all of this is important to have that correct outreach, that you've thought about it, you have everything organized, and you're giving them your best self. That is important. Let's go into what is the nitty-gritty of outreach. The other part to know is that you as an entrepreneur are kind of at the center of the ecosystem. Other people might think it's the investor that's in the middle of it, but anyways, know all of these players, right, in this ecosystem and say, okay, how can I have all of these players know what I'm doing? Maybe I need to send them an executive summary. Then maybe I need to send them some information about, maybe I need to send them a way to get onto my newsletter. Do I send them my newsletter? All of these people should know and be touching you in different ways so that you can really amplify the good work that you're doing in your startup. So the outreach flow, how does it go? I kind of created this because it's just sometimes entrepreneurs need to know like step number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So with all of that I just talked about, LinkedIn is set, your slide deck is set, your executive summaries are set, your deal room is set, all of that. What need do you have in an investor? That's going to be that really great conversation that you have with that investor. What is that need? Do you need somebody to come in and help you scale? Do you just need money? Do you just, obviously everybody needs money, but like, what are the things that you need to bring that investor in? Because that's your ask, right? You can have all these things that you have prepared. What is your ask to that investor? It could be money. It could be like, I'm raising this amount of money. My minimum check size is 25,000, all these things, but I really need somebody who's really knowledgeable in this industry. That will pique their interest more than just the check ask. Well, what would be their thesis? So this is something that's going to be a theme throughout this whole workshop, is reverse engineer their thesis, right? So their thesis might be, their investment thesis might be, I invest in pre-seed companies in the the easy SaaS space, specifically in industries in um, property tech or in sustainability. And I take a small role in the advisory board because I know a little bit more about this industry, something like that. You want to reverse engineer what would they say to you in their thesis so that you're finding the right people. So when you're outreaching and you're meeting people in events, you can actually be like, oh, that's a thesis I want. That's a thesis I want. That's a thesis I want, and connect with them. Identify the type of investor. So we've talked a little bit about at the very beginning, I said, be prepared with your investor persona. So that investor persona, I've talked about it in other workshops, but that is if you've ever done a customer discovery and done a persona of your customer, do the same thing for the investor, right? You're saying, hey, I want them to know certain things about my industry. I want them to be, or that you don't. I want them to have, a bigger fund so that there's follow-on funding. I want them to know X, Y, Z, and how do they behave? They're very active in their ecosystem because I'm solo founder and I really need some support from investors in my ecosystem. So that's that persona. Find the investors that fit that profile. I know that's like, and go do that, right? It's hard. But how you can find it is if you have that reverse engineered thesis, you have the need that you have for this investor to come into your business, and you have the type of investor, that persona, you can probably take some great pieces of wordage, like making sure that you're putting that into LinkedIn, saying sustainability investor pre-seed something, LinkedIn, or also Google it, and you're going to find that they might be talking on panels. They might be talking about it in blogs or their Substack or on YouTube. Find out who are the players in this and start having that list of investors. Find that investor that fits that profile. If you're going to ask somebody for a list of investors, there are lists out there. You can find them, right? But you really need to find that investor that connects with you and make your list. Start with a spreadsheet. I know that's really simple, but I might meet a lot of entrepreneurs that don't even have a spreadsheet. So start a spreadsheet of just who those investors are, who you're finding, similar to when you're doing market research, right? You're trying to find out the market that you're going to go into. Everybody's done that, right? So it's like, okay, what is the market out there of investors? And you're just going to start like throwing them onto a spreadsheet. And that's just easiest and fastest. Now, best practice is to work towards a CRM to make sure that you know that who is in your network, who are the investors that you're reaching out to? Have you reached out to them? How many times have you reached out to them? All of that could be in a platform, and I would recommend that, of course. But first of all, a lot of entrepreneurs also don't take that first step, right? So let's take the first step together. Open up a spreadsheet. If you haven't done it yet, I would do it right now. Like I'm telling you, it's the hardest and easiest thing to do, right? So open it up and even write down the first investor that you've ever met at an event and that they like what you're doing. Write that person down. Like that's as easy as doing it right now. Give yourself 5 minutes to get it as I'm talking, right? Then you're like, oh, I'm going to go to this other event. And that other event, you're going to have a goal of saying, I need to find 5 investors. And you're going to find those 5 because you have a little bit more of a focus in who is that list going forward. And as soon as you're starting to get that list going, you're going to work that list similar to any marketing campaign. You're going to work that list. You're going to tailor that outreach to show alignment. So that outreach is not just like spray and pray saying like any investor is going to invest in me. They are not. And especially in the environment right now. Right. So the more that you can have a list that's super tailored to what you're doing and you're showing that alignment by connecting and outreaching to them in the right authentic way, that's going to make you gain investors. So you want to craft a clear narrative that is different than a pitch. Like it is the same, but I just want you to think differently. Investors buy into the story as much as the numbers. So that clear narrative can you take your 30-second pitch, your 1 minute pitch, your 5 minute, can you kind of craft it in different ways? I love like looking at myself in the mirror and saying, okay, Sylvia, now like pitch what you're trying to do. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, did that sound good? Okay, what about if I'm meeting somebody in this industry? How would I change it? And I'm like, "Tika, tika, 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 tika." Okay, interesting. So that's my homework to you, is that envision that investor. We had that envisionment from the slide before, right? And pitch that person and then say, okay, if I think about expertise capital, I'm going to pitch to somebody else. How would I pitch them? And have that story as if like you can tell that story anytime. You want to craft a humble brag as well. That goes towards personal branding. As a founder, you should be branding, obviously, your startup and doing all the great things there, but your personal brand is super important. And this is how you kind of get started. A humble brag is saying, look, I am a founder that loves the femtech space, and I've created a product that does XYZ for women and girls. And I've done it because I was an engineering major at Stanford University, and now I'm doing this because this is my calling, something like that. So you're kind of throwing in Stanford, you're throwing in engineering, you're throwing in different things, femtech, that might grab certain people to have that conversation. So that narrative is super important. So that's another piece of homework. Create a humble brag and emphasize the problem, solution, and traction arc. So what's the problem? What's a solution and what's a traction? And I know that some people have different aspects of traction. I know some of my colleagues in the investment space really want that traction to be revenue. You know, how many customers do you have? What's coming in? And other people like traction of media and like awards that you win and pitch competitions that you win. Both of them are important. So make sure you have a little bit of a list of both sides of that coin so that you can really hone in and have a clear narrative for that investor. And highlight founder market fit. That for me as an investor is the most important thing. I want to know that the market that you're going into, you know it super well, and you know how to maneuver that startup because customers are fickle and markets are volatile. So you need to be able to pivot all the time. And that founder market fit allows me to say, yes, they're going to be able to pivot. And why you and why now? Next up is map your network. So I think that I have a little network here. So this is the ecosystem that I was talking about. This is kind of the map, but knowing who is in that map, identifying these people. So I'm going to go back. Map your network is list everyone in your circles, advisors, mentors, accelerators, customers, professors, alumni, LinkedIn contacts, anybody in your circle that could help you get to an investor or get to a customer or get to a collaborator. So that's why that spreadsheet is super important. So in that spreadsheet that you just created for investors, I want you to open up another tab and say like advisors, mentors, or ecosystem. If you can't do if you don't have enough people, that's fine. Just do another tab that says ecosystem, and you're going to list all of these people, right? And as you're listing them out, you're like, oh, I have like about 20 of them. Oh my gosh, that's so great! Congratulations! I know you do. I know you have them. You just have to have that discipline to write them down. Then on different kinds of columns, you can say how closely you are related to them and maybe have a coffee meeting with them and see how they're doing, how they can help you. Ask for warm introductions instead of cold emails. The more that you can get those warm introductions is super important. What I want to do a caveat on warm introductions. I've made a lot of them in my past. So you have to be ready to follow up on those warm introductions with a warm email, not just here's my pitch, thank you very much. That warm follow-on email is super important. And secondly, is that don't rely on only those warm intros, because I have given a lot of warm intros to entrepreneurs and like, but none of them came through. I'm like, I can't guarantee that they do. That investor is that investor. I can do that warm introduction and you can do all the work that you know, all the steps that you needed to do, all the right steps, and you still don't get an introduction and still don't get a check, and that's okay. Then work the system, get them involved in your investor network, newsletter, and keep on shepherding and relating to them. And start small, 10 to 20 investor targets that fit your stage and sector. We've gone through this. Tiering it is for epic traction, right? Tier it, tier it, tier it, not just go after everybody. Your wave one is that friendly, lower priority investor to practice on. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, I love what you're doing. I love your deck. Oh my gosh, I love you all. But then when you ask them for money, might not, right? What about wave number two is ideal target investor once the pitch is polished. And then wave 3 is that tier 1, stretch investors once that traction is clear, and then track all outreach in a CRM. There could be Airtables, HubSpot, Streak, all of those things. CRM is super important. But again, you can start off with a little spreadsheet that allows you to get started and then go into the big leagues. Build trust with updates. So trust is the most valuable currency in the investor arena. So you want to send monthly progress updates, metrics, wins, and asks. We're going to be going into what that looks like later on. So hold up on that. Follow up promptly after meetings with a summary and next steps, because that investor probably has met maybe in that day 10 other startups, or if they're an event, they're even meeting more and they don't even know who's pitching to them. You are so important to them, I know, but like they do forget. So if you follow up and say, hey, we met here, boom. And this is some information about my company, a little blurb. We're going to talk about the blurb in a little bit. And then this is some of the follow-ups that we had agreed on. I would recommend that you send them the email and send it to them on LinkedIn as well as a message. They might not respond to the message on LinkedIn, but you're like, I met you here. I sent you my pitch deck in an email, whatever is like very tiny, maybe 3 lines. If you see your LinkedIn network and whenever somebody sends you something, you only see about 2, 3 lines at first. You want those 3 lines to be epic. You want to be like, I met you at this event. I sent you my pitch deck, or like I met you at this event, great conversations about X. You want them to remember you so that maybe in 3 months when they're like, oh my gosh, who did I meet at that event that I was talking to? And they do like this golf startup. And then they're going to go into LinkedIn and they're going to like look through that and search for it in their messages, and they're going to find you. Oh, that person. They're going to go to their email, or they're doing it backwards and forwards, but know that you can have those pieces. And leverage momentum stacking, meaning that you want to share new wins as they happen. So even if it's small wins, it's better to have smaller wins, momentum that you tell, not like every single week, right? But let's say every single quarter. If you want to add something between the 2 quarters, that's fine. But you want to really have that stacking happen so that when you ask them for that money, maybe 3 months later, they're like, oh, I've heard from them. They've done some great things. Of course, I'll take that meeting. Outreach do's and don'ts. So do get informed about their portfolio of companies. You can ask them. Do identify your own ideal investor startup fit. You do connect with them authentically with your ideal investor, and you do seek out investors of interest. You can say no to some investors, and that's great for them and great for you as well. Do connect with them on a personal level, either pedigree, lived experiences, or career. Don't cold outreach with just a pitch to start off with. I personally do not like that at all. I always say delete if somebody just sends me something like that. Don't rely completely on warm introductions. Don't outreach to the wrong investors because they'll see it a mile away. Oh, I switched the thing. So sorry, my don'ts over here should be don'ts. And don't wait for um, only for, oh yeah, angel investors. You want to see other investors, other advisors that might be really great partners for you. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to remind everybody it's a focused marketing campaign to do fundraising. So it's a process. You want to build that list, you want to qualify that list and get the warm introductions and focus on that fundraising efforts on those investors that actually continue that flywheel. Okay. Sorry. Build your target list. We've talked about that. And I think that I kept this because, yeah, here, identify key market players in your vertical industry. So we haven't talked about market in general. We've talked about like more personal, what they would invest in, technical expertise, capital expertise, but think about the market players, maybe people that have been investors in other companies. Maybe they say that their portfolio is all these other companies and you'll fit into their portfolio right away. Know that you can look at for those as well. Okay, and these are some tools. I'm going to be sharing these the slides later on, so you're going to get them. But here's some tools that you can get to find out information about investors. Okay, I want to just hone in on that's relational, that's not transactional. So you want to start conversations earlier than later. I did do this asterisk, but I've already talked about that. Warm introductions beat cold in outreach, but warm introductions with correct follow-up is super important. Share your updates and engage in your community. right? If they see you at a demo day, even if you don't pitch to them, they're gonna be like, whoa, they're here, they're here. Oh my gosh, this, that. They're involved in the ecosystem. They're building their businesses at the same time. And I put LinkedIn bookend theory, meaning that you meet them at an event, and the bookend is that you bookend the beginning saying, I've met you at this event on LinkedIn on a message. Then you see them a couple of events, blah, 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 and you're bookending it kind of throughout that journey saying, I've met you again. Oh, great job meeting here. You might take a picture with them and you want to tag them. All of those things are bookends of relationships that you're having throughout the journey. So with that, I'm going to go into, yes, communicate, coffee. So I want to see what time it is. I don't even know what time it is. Sorry. Hopefully I'm not cutting up. The coffee meeting is kind of short. So I've mentioned this before, coffee meetings, because that is important in this journey. The coffee meeting, I love this tweet right here from a Y Combinator partner, is that really it's the coffee meeting, I like this, if used right, it's a cheat code for due diligence and momentum. So I wanted to kind of give you this, that you this coffee meeting is this weapon that you can use very carefully in your outreach and communications to kind of go between outreach and communications and keep that that wheel going. And it's, the coffee meeting is really to activate. And I brought it down to like 3 F's for fruitful, oh, that's spelled wrong, and purposeful startup coffee meeting. So the foundation, the fellowship, and the follow-up. And that unique flavor, the bonus, right? Maybe that like sugar-free vanilla that you want to add to your coffee, is that what is their preferred investment lens and what is your preferred investor persona. So really trying to figure out, how do I identify that and authentically lead in that connectivity. So I'll go through. The foundation is basically examine all public information about that about that investor and validate the source of like where you found that information, like that investor. Did you find them on LinkedIn? Did you see them at an event? Make sure that you know where that investor came from. Pique your interest. Make sure that you find one thing that is interesting about the person you're meeting, and so that when you're talking to them, you can have that conversation and request relevant data. Let's say you are meeting with them and you're like, hey, you know what, can you send me something before, or any kind of information that you might be able to ask from them, I would ask, and send them the relevant data from your company, and be prepared and respectful, for sure, in that meeting. The fellowship is to clarify, clarify, clarify. Have conversations about talk to them about, we saw each other at this event. Let me talk to you more about my company and the traction that I'm having. Employ purposeful conversation techniques, asking them how they are doing, what their thesis is, listening to them, right? So that they can talk. And then you're like, oh, I can respond by connecting with them even further. Share your reverse engineered investment thesis, right? You're saying, hey, I love what you're doing. I love that you're doing so much work in this industry, or I saw your portfolio, and I really am intrigued by this company. Why did you invest in that company? Right? Because you're saying, hey, I really like this investor because they invest in this company that I actually like, fan about, right? So you can have great conversations there and gain insight on ecosystem engagement. You can say, hey, how do you interact with your portfolio companies? What kind of events do you go to in the ecosystem? Because then you can have that conversation of like, well, I'm going to that event too, and establish concrete next steps. Can I put you on my investor newsletter? Can we meet again? Can we see each other's as event? Whatever that is, really have that established concrete next steps and follow up afterwards. And of course, the last F is the follow up. Share your gratitude. Thank them for the meeting, even if it's a response to their follow up email. Lead with grace and gratitude. You want to, make sure that you are purposely thinking about that genuine caring and checking and support and mentoring, not mentoring, but like making sure that you're connecting with them. And then evaluate your temperature gauge for not fund investing, but funding. I do the same thing for investors. So I messed up on that one. So it's the same thing for both of you guys, is evaluate the temperature gauge for them to invest in you, and that you get some fundraising, you get some investment from them. Follow up on promised next steps, and also efficiency add to database of investor meetings. So you really want to make sure as soon as you're done with that coffee meeting, you follow up on your own side and you hold yourself accountable to add them to that list, and diligently start due diligence process if important, if appropriate. So if they're saying, hey, you know what, I want to know more information, you send them the pitch deck, you send them the data room, and then you help them get through their due diligence. That's something that you can control. They're going to walk you through your due diligence. They might be part of an angel group, but you can also help them as well. Okay, perfect. Now, the last bit right here is investor communications. And can somebody put in the chat what time I'm at? Because I can't see time or that time framework. So if you don't mind helping me that way, that would be great. So investor communications, we're going to go through comms and the newsletter that you're going to be writing. So why investor communication matters is that you want to build trust. Perfect. Thank you, Benton. The builds trust. The investors back people that they trust, that they can communicate, that they can build a business together. Increases follow-on support, introductions, advice, and capital. So we remember that first slide that I said experiential capital, network capital, financial capital. Really, when you have really great communication, then that investor who invests in you does more for you if you have great communication with them. They provide more advice, they provide more network, they provide more things to you. Communication also shows traction and momentum clearly, right? So that communication of what is my traction? Hey, I'm doing really good on revenue, but I need a partnership here. But I'm doing good on partnership and I need more revenue. So even if you have that communication, when that comes to an investor, they're like, they've been working for a long time. They have communicated all the things, all the steps that they've made, and I'm really happy with them and I want to help them. Keeps the door open for future funding, even after a no, right? So when you get a yes and you get the check written, that's only the beginning of your investor journey, your entrepreneurial journey with that investor. Sorry, your entrepreneurial journey with that investor. So that door needs to stay open even with that yes, because you might ask them, and you probably will, in about a year or two to reinvest. And even after a no, that you have a no from them, if you keep on communicating, they're like, oh, they've done really great. Let me have a conversation. Let me have another coffee meeting with them. And then you do that whole triple F pathway. So come from an abundant mindset is that the communication is that I want to communicate more than less. I want more out of an investor relationship. I want more out of my community. And that like openness allows them to be like, wow, that's a really great leader. They might be leading really well in their company, and they're going to be thinking about broader, bigger revenue streams than just like one or two. The investor newsletter is super important also. So principles of great communication, I try to make it really simple for you so you remember. Consistency is really, really important. That even goes towards marketing, right? Consistently communicating and marketing is super important. So monthly or quarterly, not just when you need money, right? That's super, super important. I know that like I called somebody yesterday who's an investor, and she said, oh, you were going to tell me that somebody probably didn't make it, right? That they had to close out. I'm like, no, it's actually a good report, right? Usually whenever it's like, I need to talk to you right now, it means that I need more money, right? So if you can consistently talk to somebody, that would be great. Number two is clarity. Being concise and structured and easy to read is super important, because what's important here, and I probably say this every single time I talk, is that you want to make it super clear to that investor so that they can sneeze and talk to the next investor. That's called syndication. That's called co-investing, right? If somebody really loves what you're doing and they're clear about your value proposition and what you're selling and what you're building, they're going to tell their friends, and those friends are going to come in to the round. So think about that clarity piece, right? Candor, share wins and challenges. So that candor, that authenticity, we're seeing more and more of that investors really like that piece of it. Of course, share the wins, but everybody has wins. Everybody paints their unicorn the most beautiful, brilliant gold and sparkly colors. Well, then there are some challenges, and when you hear the challenges, I actually, whenever I hear a challenge from an entrepreneur, I hear how they think. And I'm like, and even if they have a challenge, I like that. I like that way of how they're thinking. The wins are like happy, 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 glitter, glitter, glitter. Challenges are like, well, I thought about this and I thought about this and I tried this and I tried that. And I reached out to this person, I reached out to them, and I'm still at a loss. Oh, interesting. I love that. Let's talk more. Let me connect you with the right people. Number 4 is call to action. Tell investors how they can help. I can tell you that whenever I get my investor newsletters from any of my portfolio companies, and now they're like 200 plus, I go all the way down immediately to the ask. Like, what can I do to help them? I mean, all this is all yummy and awesome, and this is great, all the stuff that are on the top, but I want to know how I can help. So that call to action is super important. Have it bold at the very bottom. Okay. So step one, I wanted to kind of go backwards a little bit from the newsletter saying, 3 steps to having meetings with investors and how that communication impacts those meetings. So the step one is that initial meeting. You have your number one goal is to have another meeting. You want to highlight your business in the best light possible. You want to know who's in the room. You want to talk more about why they would be a good fit for you. And it's okay to ask them about like, when are they going to invest next? When is their next check? When did they write their last check? And then thank them afterwards. So you see how that communication is very much like it's initial, it's getting to know each other, obviously talking about your company, talking about your traction, business model, all those things that are in the typical pitch because you are prepared. You already have your pitch ready to go. You're talking to them very conversationally. You have your deal room set up. You have your executive summary. You're watching them all in your head, right? And you're communicating, highlighting, championing your own company, but with that conversation in mind to have that next meeting. Okay. And then afterwards, send them a thank you letter, an email. Sometimes you can send a handwritten. I just wanted to kind of showcase that. So step 2 is that waiting game. Unfortunately, sorry. But if an investor is really interested, they will likely be in contact. They will communicate with you. Angels are not as good as responding as VCs because they do not usually have a process, right? They have whenever I'm ready, I will communicate back to them. VCs they have a responsibility to their LPs, the limited partners, if they're GPs, to pick the right companies based on their thesis. So if you have done your homework and you align to their thesis and they meet with you and it's a great conversation and they ask you for more information, it's all like this congruence awesomeness, right? This congruence um like say piece that allows you to know exactly what they're doing, they know exactly what they're doing, they have a responsibility, all of it aligns, therefore they want more information and they will be following up with you, but it is a waiting game. If you do get the second meeting, it's all about what's under the hood. What are your metrics, what's your business model, all of those things. And typically they're looking for their appendix information. It's the marathon then comes next. Now, this is actually step 3. Keep investors updated and keep them updated all the time. You don't know when they're going to say yes. You don't know when they have the right funding in place, or let's say VCs, they're closing out their fund and they're like, wow, I met that person 6 months ago, with the last 100K that we have, we want to reevaluate that company, see if they have any new traction. And don't forget about your personal brand. Keep that going as a founder. I know one of my portfolio companies, she sings from the mountaintops about personal brand, and she does an incredible job of really putting herself out there as a founder, saying, I have all these things going on. I'm a really great leader and I have an incredible business. And when you want me to pitch to you, I'm going to pitch to you, and that business is going to be amazing. But I am a great leader. And she doesn't say that out loud, but she connotates that. Okay. So the last thing I think before we go into the 4 E's of an investor email etiquette. Thank you, Benton. The confluence of awesomeness. Yes, that is typically my ways of communicating. So the 4 E's of investor email etiquette. I think etiquette is super, super important. We just wrote something about email etiquette on LinkedIn. It was really interesting. So I kind of just wanted to make sure that you guys kind of thought about it as efficient engaging, enlightening, and empowering. So you know that efficient is that everybody has limited amount of time. So get to the point quickly. Subject line and first sentence should say why you're writing to them. Have that etiquette of like honoring their time and your time. Keep emails under 300 words and use bullets for clarity. Boom, 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 3 bullets. It kind of stands out a little bit. And that etiquette of knowing that they don't have a lot of time. Engaging. You want to open with a warm human tone. Thank them for, share a quick win. Add a touch of narrative. We just crossed the 10K users after 6 months, something like that, that allows you to say, okay, I want you to get engaged with me. Come on in, right? That etiquette is super important. And then enlightening, share meaningful data and context, not fluff, right? And sometimes I know some entrepreneurs like, what can I tell them that I haven't told them before, right? Think about, I've gone to this event and I wanted to share this thing with you, or I read this article and I wanted to share this article, or I saw you on a panel, and that enlightening piece kind of gets them in. And then empowering, always include a clear ask. I need an intro, I need advice. Make it easy for investors to help you. They are servant leaders. They're not doing this to like make a bazillion amount of money, though they do, but really there's so much, like there's 9 out of 10 that fail typically, right? And that 1 out of 10, they're like, oh my gosh, that one person is going to survive. But we're really doing this as servants of our ecosystem. And then of course, end with gratitude and next steps. I think we've already talked about this, is a no can turn into a yes if you have that great communication, and update, you update them and all that. And sometimes silence equals no. If you hadn't heard back with them, ping them again, and a third time, and after the third time, assume they're not interested, and that's okay. Keep them on your list, on your CRM, saying they're not interested. Maybe you send them something every 6 months of a scrubbed newsletter list. So I'll go in through that in a little bit. So cold email, I gave you some examples here. We'll go through it, not fast, but you will get these slides. So a cold email that's a little bit more personal. So it's like, dear, hi, I am Dr. Blah, 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 the founder and CEO of this. We are creating blah, right? There's currently no good solutions. Our business model is here. We are coming to a major inflection point. This is a great opportunity. You see how that's like super easy. It's very personal. It's super short. It's not like, and we have all these metrics, and talk about that inflection point, some kind of inflection point, some kind of thing that allows me, like, there's an urgency about it. So that is something to just look into. Okay. The cold email, more tactical, is the same company, right? So, and this is actually a company, but I just scrubbed it with the person's name and their company. So the cold email is like, hi, I'm Dr. Blah, founder and CEO of Blah. The problem, solution, differentiation, business model, customer acquisition, competitive, all those things, you can do it that way because some investors just want to go right down the road and saying, okay, we're taking investor meetings between blah and blah, right? So that's something that's very more tactical. And again, you need to know who your investors are. If this investor that you're reaching out to, that you've seen on LinkedIn, is more relational, they like love being on the ecosystem, they love talking to people, this one is the one that you need to do. If they're more like, hey, we're all about like data, this is TechCrunch's nearest data, and it's about ROI, and it's about CAC, and it's about LTV, this is it, right? So you want to do your research. You do not even want to send a cold email to you do not know and you haven't done the research around. Okay, the blurb, I promised you on this. So I'm giving you 2 examples here. One is more of this like tactical, and this is more like relational. Usually an investor who wants to actually give you a warm introduction, or somebody in your ecosystem that says, I want to give you a warm introduction, they're going to ask you for the blurb. This is the blurb, right? So this is one way of doing it traction wise, more tactical, mission, problem, solution, and all of this. And then this is more of the blurb of, I'm Dr. Blah. We are creating this. This is a universal challenge. The smartwatch manufacturers, early traction includes, we are at a major inflection point. We are raising, right? Something like that. A longer paragraph like that is nice because an investor who's doing the warm introduction, or a colleague or an advisor, could take maybe chunks of it that they know that investor that they're doing that warm introduction for knows that those are the things that they look for. So, okay, newsletters. I'm giving you three examples. Long form, text stars. I'm actually giving you four, and I forgot to update this. Long form, text stars, more like visual and conversational. So the long form, and that's like more narrative newsletter, is the structure is like this, and I'm giving you an example after this. So the structure is, let's say, the header is investor update and the company and the month and the quarter. Very easy, because this is really important, because the investor, who might be in an event, who might be talking to another investor, they're like, oh, who was that one? Let me see if they have an investor update. And they're going to type into their email investor update, or they're going to type in the company name, or they're going to type in your name, right? So you want it to be searchable, because that's what they're going to be kind of going back and forth with their email. What I have is I have a folder of all the investor updates, and I just throw them in there, right, in my email, so that I have them. But then I can search that and say, like, hey, what's a recent investor update of X company? I can find it super easily. Opening note is short human message from the founder. And then the sections are more of like some highlights, some challenges. You want to do transparency, but solution focused, right? You want to show how you're thinking. Metrics, roadmap, and investor ask. Again, always investor ask at the end. Be as specific as possible. It's kind of like giving them a goal, a SMART goal: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. I'm saying, like, what is that specificity and that actionable ask. Then style is professional, professional but personable, like a founder's letter in a report, right? When to use it is quarterly or after major milestones, and you can use branded visuals or simple header template for consistency, or you just do it as text. So you can have that cadence however way you want. You can use like MailChimp if you want to, or just do it in your own email. You know your investor like group of people that you're talking to. The other option, before I go into all these other things, is that you could tier your investor. So obviously, investors that have already been have become part of your cap table, they're going to get the longer investor let's say update, right? Maybe there's another tier, right, that is ones that are interested, and that might get something that's a little shorter. And then the ones that are already said no, or like really are ecosystem builders, maybe get the really scrubbed version of like investor update. We're doing great, like kind of thing. So just know that some entrepreneurs tier it in three pieces. That's a little bit overkill sometimes, but I just know that investors who are on the cap table want more information. So you could even have just two versions: lots of information and a shorter version. Okay. That goes for all of these examples. So the second one is Techstar style. So very much structure is like KPIs, the top 3 or 4, MRR or users or churn or runway. You decide what your top 3 or 5 KPIs. And what you decide is equally as important as what the numbers are. So the investors are gonna be like, oh, they care about bum, 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 right? Then they're gonna see those 5 all the time. And they're gonna be like, that founder and that company thrives on these things. Then the wins. This month we closed X, launched Y. Challenges: keep honest but brief, and then the asks. Super easy, right? So the style is one page, bullet driven, easy to skim. And when to use it is monthly updates to angels, accelerators, or busy VCs. And you want, the tip is just to bold the metrics and emojis. There's a lot of emojis in Techstars types of newsletters. This is the third example: visual heavy updates. So you can have a structure of like a metrics dashboard. Let's say like you are really careful about growth curves and CAC versus LTV. That's customer acquisition cost, and lifetime value, LTV, churn, and pipeline. So you could have a dashboard that's a image that you get to share all the time, screenshots of product launches. You can embed videos, small caption visuals. Some people actually like to use Loom and throw that in there as just like a 30-second or 1-minute Loom video to capture all of this information. That's kind of like that visual heavy, or a media heavy. And the style is graphic forward, let visuals do the talking. And then when to use is when growth is accelerating or product is very visual. And the pro tip is just Canva and Figma templates are really important. And that goes after that consistent look every month. The conversational example is like more demo-like updates. So the structure is a short intro. Hey, investors, here's a 2-minute update. You can again do the Loom or YouTube demo link and then send light bullets. And it's very casual, friendly, authentic. And that's really more early stage when a small engaged investor base that they want to see you, they want to know, get to know you more. And then the tip is to keep under 300 words and a link to richer content if needed. So I'll give you this example. This one is the Techstars example. This is one of my portfolio companies. Unfortunately, did not make it past seed, but did a really good job. So this is the update, and the blurb is the blurb about the business, and then the Expedia of outdoor travel industry. The seeker is making every step of outdoor travel planning experience easier, safer, and more social. And then they have these like in emojis, achievements, shout outs, media, North Stars, KPIs, and then bullets. That's all. And this is one of three. I know this is not just one page, but think about it as an executive summary, one page. And the next page was like business, biz dev and growth, product and marketing, wins and challenges. And then the third page was financials and ask. And then it's like, and we're done, right? Not really a lot of paragraphing, a lot of like conversation. It's just boom, 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 listing all of those out. The next one is more like a hybrid of a little bit of that data plus a little bit of paragraphing and talking about it. It's like, okay, dear investors, this is our data points. Our key metrics are all of these. Our sales and marketing, we launched the Lab Fellows Cloud free plan on October blah. The product and engineering is complete, our summer release. And then here's like 2 out of 2 is like corporate matters, asks, message from CEO, and this is what kind of where that message goes in to that. Up next is more of an investor newsletter template, more of like that grid wise or oh, thank you, Benton. And so this is like, welcome to the Q3 recap. This is what I'm talking about. And then some like snapshots here as visuals. This is something that founder knew that her investors liked it this way. So wanted to end with a couple of things is that a lot of investors can facilitate those intros and write those that communication, and then you can follow up with those newsletters. There's also entrepreneur to investor. Entrepreneurs in the same industry can intro you to investors, advocates to investors, advisors to investors. So know that as soon as you have all these communications things done and you have a really great investor newsletter going, you can actually facilitate a lot more intros to a lot of different people saying, hey, I have an investor newsletter. I can send it to anybody. So know that this actually works really well. And that's it. So thank you so much for seeing, being part of this workshop. Hopefully it was, I'm going to say stop sharing. Hopefully it was good. 3 minutes till without seeing the timer and clock. So whew. Hopefully this was good. I gave you some great examples and kind of strategic examples and some tactical examples, and the slides will be sent to you, and hopefully this was really good. Thank you so much, everybody. And we're ending 3 minutes early. So thanks for having us. And again, know that the SPDC is always a network and always a resource for small businesses and startups to gain information like this. Meet an advisor, meet a network of advisors. If it's not me, it's somebody else. If it's not somebody else, it's some marketing expertise. So know that we're here for you as a really incredible network of leaders in their industries to support small businesses and startups. So thanks for joining us today. Talk to you guys later.